At the pinnacle of solitude and the extremity of scarcity, where fate seemed to have slammed shut every door of hope, there lived a homeless man grappling with his life. His existence was a long series of days battling hunger and deprivation, but what tormented him most was an invisible curse, a harsh limitation. He was only allowed to possess a maximum of 8 items in this world. No matter how hard he tried to accumulate, the 9th item would mysteriously vanish. This was the curse of 8, a spiritual shackle that bound him to abject poverty, a grim punishment for an unknown transgression. The story began with images of his meager meals being constantly stolen. The already severe scarcity became even more bitter when he had to share his last morsel. One day, he caught the thief, a tiny mouse. Instead of punishing the mouse for taking his precious food, the man questioned it in a tone of utter helplessness. "You are an animal. Go steal from the rich. Why take from a wretch like me?" The mouse looked at him with cunning eyes and uttered a chilling prophecy. "Because that is your destiny. You are only permitted to possess 8 items. This poverty is not due to external circumstances, but due to a sacred law that has already been written." This declaration was like a dagger plunging through the soul of the homeless man. Who would want such a cruel fate? Who would want to be limited by a number without feeling? That cruel truth pushed him into a journey of seeking meaning. He decided to find the Buddha, the only enlightened one who could answer the deepest mysteries of fate. This journey was not just a physical trip, but a spiritual metamorphosis, the prelude to the greatest letting go of his life. It began with selfishness and the desire to change his own destiny, but gradually became purified by compassion. On the first night, he sought shelter with a wealthy family. They had a 16-year-old daughter who was beautiful but mute. Her silence was not just a physical defect, but a spiritual pain tearing at her parents' hearts, a symbol of humanity's lost voice. The mother earnestly begged him to ask the Buddha what they must do for their daughter to speak. The beggar agreed, carrying the heavy burden of another's hope. He carried not only his own question but also the young girl's yearning to speak, to express herself, a yearning that had lasted 16 years. The next day, he faced a mighty, insurmountable mountain range. There, he met a Dharma master who had cultivated for 1,000 years. This master possessed the ability to fly over seas and mountains, but was inexplicably trapped in the mortal realm. He had reached the highest state of practice but still could not ascend to the heavens. "O young man," the master asked, "you are seeking the Buddha. Could you ask for me? What must I do to reach heaven? I have waited 1,000 years." The Dharma master was an allegory for the burden of ego and stubborn attachment, and the belief in perfection. He continuously clung to his staff of power, a symbol of control and reliance on external means, failing to realize that the staff itself was the anchor binding him to the earth. Continuing his journey, he encountered the final obstacle, a rushing river. He was helped by a giant turtle. This turtle had lived 500 years in the deep river, trying to cultivate itself to become a dragon, but without success. "Could you please ask the Buddha for me?" the turtle pleaded. "Why can I not yet become a dragon? What must I do to achieve my wish?" The turtle represented the shell of security. It had lived for half a millennium but still refused to abandon its familiar, sturdy shell, the shell that protected it from danger but simultaneously prevented it from achieving the greatest transformation of its life. Comfort is the biggest enemy of growth. The homeless man carried 4 questions to the Buddha's monastery. When he faced the Buddha, another harsh truth was revealed. The Buddha would only answer 3 questions. Only 3. 4 questions and only 3 answers. This choice was the ultimate test of compassion. The beggar fell into deep contemplation. He could use his question to change the cruel fate of the number 8, but he saw the 3 other questions laden with timeless suffering. He thought of the turtle. 500 years living in a shell was 500 years delaying freedom. He thought of the master. 1,000 years of waiting was 1,000 years bound by material possession. And he thought of the mute girl. A life never given a voice was torture for her spirit. She would live her whole life without complete connection. Then he looked back at himself. I am just a beggar, he told himself. I am already accustomed to hardship. If I don't get the answer, my life will continue as it is. It cannot get worse. But for them, if they get the answers, everything will change. They will be liberated. In that sacred moment, the homeless man performed the greatest letting go. He relinquished his own fear, abandoned his personal greed, and let go of the number 8 destiny that seemed to have bound him for life. He decided to ask the 3 questions of the others. This was not merely an act of kindness, but a reversal of destiny. When he prioritized the suffering of others above his own, he disconnected himself from the curse of 8. The Buddha smiled and provided 3 profound answers. Regarding the turtle, it cannot become a dragon as long as it clings to its familiar shell. Tell it that it must discard its protective carapace in order to evolve. The shell is the limitation created by fear. Growth demands vulnerability and the acceptance of risk. Regarding the Dharma Master, he will not reach heaven until he releases the staff he constantly carries. The staff is the anchor holding him to the mortal realm. Sometimes, what we believe to be our power or treasure is in fact the shackles of the soul. Regarding the girl, she will speak when she meets the soulmate of her life. Her voice is not merely a physical issue but a spiritual resonance. She will only speak when she recognizes a deep and unconditional connection. The beggar bowed in thanks. He returned with 3 priceless gifts, 3 words of liberation. And precisely then, the law of unconditional reciprocity began to operate. On his way back, he met the turtle. He conveyed the Buddha's message. You must discard the shell. Despite its fear, the turtle accepted the surrender. Immediately, it transformed into a magnificent dragon soaring high in the sky. Inside the shell it left behind were countless precious pearls formed during 500 years deep beneath the ocean. The grateful dragon presented all the pearls to the beggar. I no longer need these, for I am now a dragon. Thank you for your kindness. Gratitude and letting go had brought the beggar material wealth beyond all imagination. Next, he met the Dharma Master. Without hesitation, the master laid his staff down and handed it to the beggar as a gift of thanks. The very moment the staff left his hand, the master became light and ascended immediately to the heavens. The staff now became a symbol of power and blessing, no longer a burden. The beggar received a gift symbolizing spiritual strength and freedom from attachment. Finally, he returned to the wealthy family. He recounted the Buddha's prophecy, "Your daughter will speak when she meets her soulmate." As soon as he finished speaking, the 16-year-old girl walked down the stairs and looked directly at him. She uttered the first words of her life, "Is this man the one who was here last week?" The entire family was stunned. The beggar, with his compassionate heart and his sudden affluence, the pearls and the staff, was the girl's soulmate. The moment the girl spoke was the moment the beggar realized his true destiny. He was no longer limited by the cruel number 8. He possessed an entire fortune of pearls, the power from the staff, and most importantly, unconditional love. Scarcity had transformed into the most complete fulfillment. This story is not a random miracle, but a profound testament to the psychology of surrender. The homeless man changed his fate not by pleading, but by the greatest act of self-sacrifice. When he decided that the problems of others were more important than his own, he transitioned from a mindset of scarcity, the 8 items, to a mindset of infinite abundance, accepting loss to bring blessings to others. For us, each person carries their own turtle shell of safety, a master's staff of stubborn attachment, and a personal curse of 8. We are afraid to give up the familiar job, the shell. We stubbornly hold onto old prejudices, the staff, and we limit our potential by self-imposed numbers and rules. This very clinging prevents us from transforming into a dragon, ascending to heaven, and finding our true voice. The greatest healing in life is not when we receive the answer to our problem, but when we realize that our problem becomes small and insignificant when we focus on solving the pain of others. The law of reciprocity is absolute karma. When we sow unconditional kindness, we unexpectedly reap the best possible destiny. The beggar found everything: wealth, power, and love. But what he found first and foremost was the liberation of his own soul from the shackles of selfishness and fear. Remember that all the good things you do in this world will eventually return to you in ways far grander than anything you gave up.